Hello everyone, welcome to what is hopefully the first of many voiceover videos. This is Six, obviously. Thank you for hanging out and watching. So basically what these videos are going to be are me just kind of voicing over, I have a picture that I was working on at the time, and just kind of talking over it, maybe talking a little bit about the process, stuff that happened. Why not? We got about like 15 minutes to burn here, so saddle up, enjoy. This particular drawing is incredibly sped up because I think the video, like the actual time itself to make it, was 4 hours. It's two characters from popular show Touhou. It was commissioned by one of my streamers that comes to my channel a lot, or vice versa. Somebody who comes to my streams a lot. Very cool. Once I remember their name, I can't believe at the moment I forgot their name, but I will remember it, I promise. But with this one, they had asked for 2 characters back to back. Forgive me, I don't know the characters' names either. I'm not familiar with Touhou, but it looks like a pretty cool series, and there's a lot of really interesting looking characters. They all have really cool designs. So it's a lot of fun to draw them. So I'm sure as the video is going on, you'll see who they are. So one thing that I tend to do is I draw a sketch first, like a very, very rough sketch, and then I bring out kind of a crayon tool to kind of go over that sketch and kind of define things like the clothing. A lot of times you'll see me skip going back and forth, looking at the original picture, looking at reference images so I can figure out how I want them to look. So this character has the ruffles, and she does have high heels, but there are versions of her that don't have high heels. So later on you'll see that I change out the heels. She has a long braid, and her outfit's actually 2-colored, so that's kind of why I had that little slit in the middle there too. And this character was really fun to draw. She has like a flower ribbon on her front. It was really cute. And of course she has little bun things in her hair. And more than likely, if you're seeing long pauses like this during the video, I either went to go get a drink or something, or I'm looking for more reference pictures. Probably I was looking for reference pictures for her. But she, if I recall, she has chains. Pretty sure she has chains on her. And I apparently left a note there. I think the note is probably the brush size. Can't tell from here. My video moves pretty fast. And originally I was going to have them holding hands, and then I think later on I decided to not have them hold hands, which ended up making it a little easier. So this goes on, a little sketching. The sketching process is, for me, it's important. Not everyone needs to have a sketch to set it up, but I need a sketch so that I know where I'm going to have to ink, because I am terrible at planning things out ahead of time. You'll often see me resizing stuff, moving arms, reshaping. Like here you could see one leg is a little thicker than the other. I think I fixed that. I'm pretty sure I fixed that later. If not, you'll see it still messed up and you can scold me. So at this point, I threw everything into a folder. I check my brush size, and then I find a brush that I like. And one thing you will see a lot of is the lines flashing, because I control Z like crazy. It's literally my favorite button in the universe. So of course I start off with the heads first, get some of I added a couple of extra lines in, and then what I'll probably do with if I have more than one character, I usually do 2 different layers for them, just so that if I have to make any kind of edits to it, they're on their own layer. I don't have to worry about accidentally erasing one or the other. And I take a couple of liberties there with my inking. And she's got a bow. She has like constellations on her, so I would think of her as the star one. And I get asked to draw her quite a bit sometimes. She's pretty cool. I like big braids. I like drawing braids. I'm not good at drawing braids. I'm trying to get better at drawing them, but it's fun when I can draw them. Little extra lines. And see, I didn't forget the bow. More than likely Kelly told me, "Hey, Nikki, you forgot the bow." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks for letting me know." So she's usually keeping an eye on me and making sure I'm not completely screwing things up. Yeah, and with her I made her eyes a little smaller because they were bigger. And They were just a little bit too big, so I sized them down just a bit, made them a little more mature looking. I think I was having trouble trying to figure out how I wanted this character to look, because in a lot of shots she looks really like happy, and a lot of shots she looks very serious. But I think that's with like all the characters in Touhou. It just depends on the artist. It's kind of like that Miku girl. Some people just draw her very cutesy and happy and fluffy, and some people draw her in these really dark versions of herself. It's kind of interesting. You can also see the line art for the other character is a lot lighter, because I didn't want to have the black lines that I'm doing with this character interfere. I made the opacity on the lines lighter, so now I could see what I was doing. Clearly I took a break here. I ran off somewhere. Where did you go? Get back to work. There you go. And there was the cool flower I was talking about. I just kind of give it a very stylized look, because it's almost like a ribbon. Oh yeah, that's okay. I was wondering why that pause was there. I have the chat open usually when I'm streaming, and if I recall, the person who commissioned this piece asked if that character could smile instead. So I went ahead and I gave him a smile. I asked if it was okay. Gave him both little smiles, and the person was happy, and then we moved on. Yeah, see, there's me making some adjustments, because in the line art phase, it's easy if somebody is asking me, hey, can you alter this for me? When it's in the sketch phase, super easy. When it's in the line art phase, still pretty easy. When we've gotten past the point of line art and past the point of sketching, it gets a little tricky to make changes. Like if I had this character completely colored and shaded, and they said, oh, hey, by the way, can she have both her arms down instead of one being up? Then it would be like, okay. It's not completely undoable. It just takes a little extra time, and it's not a big deal, because you want to make sure the piece looks nice for the person you're commissioning and doing the commission for. And I've had that happen in the past. So that's why that's why I tend to stream these, because, oh yeah, here's where I changed them to flats instead of heels. But this is why I prefer streaming, so people could see what I'm drawing, because if they see something they don't like, they could say, hey, Six, would you mind, fixing that up for me? I don't really like the way that's looking. It's like, okay, no problem. Here's me making sure the feet look okay. Yeah, I was having a lot of anatomy issues with this one, because I feel like the legs weren't working out quite right, and I think around this point is when I asked if they have to be holding hands, and the person said no, they don't. So then I moved them apart and made it a little bit easier. At this point, it's like, but when are you gonna draw her other hairy hand? Oh, don't worry, it'll show up. I was adding things like her ribbons, her little tiny features to go along with it. Oh, there I go. I did fix it. Okay. Yeah, I made sure that leg was a little thinner. And like I said, usually Rainbow Crisp Apple Bison is there with me, and she'll be like, hey, that doesn't look right, and I'll just be like, okay. I'll see for here, you can see that arm, I did it on its own layer because it was going to have so much going on with the line art. So I went ahead and I just did that, and then I merged it back down with the layer below it. Sometimes when you're doing stuff like that, it just makes it easier when you have that layer, because if you have to make, eraser marks, it's just a pain having to clean it up. It drives me crazy. Like, for her, it wasn't a big deal because she didn't have the kind of ruffles and the dress that the other girl had. But see that, yeah, this is when they said I didn't have to draw them holding hands. So I'm like, okay, good, perfect. And then, yeah, I fixed up the arm a little bit because hers wasn't looking quite right in that direction. Normally, like, if you're in a pose like that, your arm's not going to be suddenly tilted to the side. It's going to be a little bit lax. And I think here is when I realized something's off about the body. Let me see if this is when I figure it out. Because there is a little bit of a strange anatomy issue going on here. Yep, I figured it out. The way her body was positioned was very strange because her body is turned. I mean, it is possible to have your upper body, your torso kind of contorted that way, but it's not comfortable. So what I did was I went ahead and I went back and I re-inked this part here, but instead of having her chest in a profile position, I went ahead and made it more 3/4 like the rest of the body. You know, eventually. I was probably looking up reference pictures again. Yeah, I'll always go through and double check my line art because the problem too is I want to give it a little bit of depth. So like the collar there, I made sure to give it that little bit of a half circle so that it looks like her neck's popping out of it and not just, hey, here's a flat collar. There you go. And here, yep, this is when I did the more, excuse me, and then more of a 3/4 view with the art here. So there's a couple of different terminologies. 3/4 means like you see it from the side corner. There's also profile, which is profile like if you see this one girl's face, the way she's like completely looking off to the side, that's a profile look. And then there's front, obviously, like the girl on the other side, she's in 3/4 view. Front, there's obviously like a front face, and that would be yeah, there's my reference picture. Reference picture was very pretty. I like that picture a lot. Like their character came, the character they draw was very cutesy, so I went with kind of a cutesy look. So as you can see, I do have a layer just specifically for color. So I was dropping the colors in. Inside, there is an option that when you use the paint bucket, you can use it on one layer and it will think the line art is also on that layer and allow you to kind of use it like a coloring book in a way. So if you can see on here, every time I drop a color, I don't have to worry about like using the wand tool to select it. Now sometimes I do need to use the wand tool because there's parts that aren't selecting properly, but for the most part it knows, hey, this is where the color needs to go. And then that was the other character, her lovely red and blue outfit. And the other thing too is, again, it thinks that it's line art, so that's why it's coloring that one part colored in half so perfectly. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll pick colors, but then I'll kind of tweak them a little bit to fit the way I want the colors to look. Because unless it's like official art, because a lot of the art that you find for this series is fan art, and everybody kind of takes their own liberties in it. So I went ahead and I made like a darker blue, got a slightly darker red as well. And so now my characters are all colored in. They're ready to go. It's the shading process time. And I was playing around trying to see how good they look side to side, and so far I'm pretty happy with it. And this is a shading technique called, I've seen other people do this, but Sai has a layer option called Lumi and Shade, which means it pops out highlights and it pops out shadows. So what I usually do is I'll just throw shadow in there, like a bunch of black. I don't use pure black because it won't look quite right. I usually use a very dark gray and then a very light gray. And then what that does is it's basically only one layer needed for shading and highlight. Now it's not perfect because you can't do colored shading, if you want to call it that. It's basically, it's all one layer, so when you try to like color it a different way, like if you wanted to color it all gray and then go back over that gray shading and color over another color, it's not going to work because it thinks it's just all black or all white, so it's not going to work properly. So that would be if you did a layer for shadows, would be a multiply layer, and you did a layer for highlights, which would be an overlay or a screen layer. This is just like kind of a quick way to do it, and I've managed to work it pretty well. You can use, it doesn't have to be a light gray or a dark gray, you can use any color on the spectrum, but I usually just go with gray or white because it turns out pretty good on its own. You can see in the one girl's white hair that the shading came out pretty good. So now we're on the redhead girl. That's okay. It looks pretty decent on her. I guess I went AFK again. Come back. What are you doing? There we go. And I do very, very simplistic line art. I know there's some folks that get crazy detail with their line art. I usually don't. Like the highlights, the shadows, I keep it pretty simple. Luckily this layer style that I use is pretty nice. I've made it work for what I wanted to do. I think I will sometimes go back to the old method of shading and highlighting that I used to do just for like projects that need a lot of vibrant color. But for this part, it actually still works pretty well. Her shadows are nice. They seem to complement her hair nicely. But there are some painters that have techniques where they use different colors in the hair to make it pop even more. Like maybe I could have used yellow in her hair to make it look like she's under the sun or something. But the Lumion shade, it's one of my favorites to use. It's just very, very nice, quick and efficient. And I think it looks pretty darn good. And I like to do eyes. Like eyes are one of my favorite things to color in. They're just fun. They're big, they're vibrant, they're colorful. You can have a lot of fun with eyes. And I like drawing characters who have crazy eyes, like maybe I've got some kind of weird pupil or something. It's always kind of fun. If you keep hearing this beeping sound, it's the sound of my hard drive constantly going on and off. It's not behaving today. Let's see, so yeah, there's the cleanups happening there. And then those are our two characters. And of course I save it and I export it and I give the file to the person who requested it. And then that's it. So there's our two Touhou characters. Touhou? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it properly. But anyway, so that's it. Thanks for watching this video. I guess I also was going through some of my other stuff to show people. So yeah. That's it. So hopefully there'll be more videos like this, and I'll talk to you guys next time.